There we go. Okay, so welcome everyone to Drop by Marketing. And this is where you can just drop in. You can pick up some awesome marketing tips and apply them immediately. And I'm excited because today we have with us Matt. Matt, is it Brandenburg? Brandenburg.
Yes, a nice German name. Brandenburg.
My last name is Schreck.
There we go.
Here we go. This is joining us for our German show today. And Matt, you actually work for a company called PopClickle in Colorado. Tell us what PopClickle does.
I always describe us as a fishbone. We kind of fill in the gap for a lot of different companies that are looking for digital solutions. So we come in and just kind of connect the dots. So we wear a lot of different hats. Like, there's some groups that we actually are their sales organization, which is kind of crazy.
See, I always thought you guys did mostly SEO.
Primarily, that's where we started. But we've kind of just evolved over time. Okay. So we've kind of found ourselves as like a white label digital solution for a lot of different companies.
Got it. Okay. And for those of you who are joining in, I know we've got I think it's just top of the hour here. You can tell a little bird by clicking the little blue bar to the left and invite a friend, get them over here to join in so we can get lots of questions and comments going. And now, brand new to Blab, I just noticed for the first time today, it says, tell your aunt, which is hysterical. You can click and it puts you on Facebook. You can tell your aunt. And really, on mine, it should say, tell your mom, because she would come in here and make random comments during this, I'm sure, if I put this on Facebook. So I'd be afraid to share mine on my Facebook page. I would see my mom's face any minute, and she would say, what's SEO stand for? So those are the ways you can use Blab. And then if you are, again, new to Blab, then on the right-hand side is our chat windows, and you can put your questions, comments, and so forth in the chat box there, in the chat area where it says send a message. So, and if you have a question, see all these little tips on Blab, we're all learning, but /Q and then type your question will pop your question over to the left-hand question area. So lots of cool stuff. And Blab is adding lots of features. I just attended one of their town hall meetings last week, I think it was, and they were talking about now you can embed Blab into your website before it even goes live. You can put it on your website when it's still in the scheduled mode, and people can then watch live, which has got to be good for SEO, wouldn't it? Now
you would think so.
You're driving more people directly to your website.
Absolutely, more content.
Yeah. So, Matt, I wanted to talk about for non-techie people, because we do the kind of the digital marketing social media side, but we do a lot of blogging for companies, and we'll load their blogs. And I'm amazed when we go in there and we look at their websites and we see like blogs that don't have alt tags on the images, and they don't have, there's little things little tips and tricks that you can do to, I think, help your site and your content get better reach. And what would you say are some of the mistakes that you're seeing companies make?
Really, for lack of a better term, laziness. That's the biggest thing. Is people just kind of not organizing things.
What do you mean by that?
So, Google, they want to make money. And the way they're going to make money is making sure that they have the best user experience possible. Right. So we have to make life easy for Google to find information. So what I see a lot of businesses do is they try to go the easy way out. They try to do shortcuts here and there. There's this common misnomer that, Google is changing algorithms and changing the rules. And that's really not the case. The rules are the rules. The problem is Google gets more refined on catching people trying to cheat and break the rules.
True.
So if you're doing things logically and you're doing things that make sense, you're going to find yourself in a good situation. So if you're going to take the time and effort to have a blog and set things up, do it right. Don't do the shortcuts, because then you're just kind of spinning your wheels.
Okay, so for a lot of small business owners or people that, again, non-techie people, I think a lot of it is they don't know. Like what?
Sure.
I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do when I create my website. Or a lot of times someone will create a website for you and your business, and they tell you they've done the SEO work, but really you go in, they've designed the website, but nothing is really done. So when you look at, again, not real deep SEO, because there's a lot you can get into with SEO, but what are some of the things that you would say are the basics that you should look for if you were even auditing your own website?
Yeah, and there's a few different things. I mean, first of all, you want to look at how the site's built. Like if it's in a WordPress site or, you know, or a WordPress platform. And what's nice about this, once you decide what you're going to build the site in, there's so many different SEO plugins out there that kind of help you through different things. Like for example, like WordPress, you could use something like the Yoast SEO plugin, right? Yeah. And that's going to actually, you could put in keywords in the actual plugin itself to say, hey, am I optimizing for these? And it'll help you along. And there's a lot of tools and resources at your disposal that are free.
Right. I don't know what's, I think because you work for Pop Clickle, I'm hearing pops and clicks. I don't know if it's
that happens.
It sounds like crunching. Is that your?
It could be the headset. Here, does that sound better?
Oh my gosh, that's like 100 times better.
It does? Okay. Here, let me turn on speaker so I can hear you, because now I can't hear you.
You don't need to hear me. I was like, wow, that all of a sudden is super clear. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to do it this way. Does this still work? Because I couldn't hear you that way.
No, okay. I hear you. Can hear me?
I can. Now I can.
Oh, you can. Okay. So yeah, putting in the Yoast plugin, it's a very popular one for WordPress. What are your thoughts on GoDaddy sites? I see a lot of people with these GoDaddy sites, and I cringe every time because I feel like they're not that great. Are they? Is it just me having a prejudice?
Well, you know, I agree with you. You know what I mean? I have like a purity. Like it took me forever to kind of even adopt WordPress, to be honest with you, because it was like, as a purist, I was like, oh no, it has to be HTML. But you know, things have just changed, right? Right. Aesthetically, they're not beautiful in my opinion, but you know, I do SEO for a living, so never call me a designer. Right. But we've gotten them to rank actually pretty well. I mean, I really think it just comes down to the content that you're actually putting on the sites themselves. They're easy to navigate. The trouble I have as somebody who works in the digital space is I feel like if you're going to build a website and you're going to do it for marketing purposes, you need to spend money in it, right? You need to actually, because that's your face, your marketing tool to the world. Right. And if you cheap out on it, in my opinion, you're basically saying I'm being cheap to everybody else. I mean, that to me, you should actually, if anything, put a lot more money into your website to make sure it looks aesthetically pleasing. Right. So that, I mean, because it's your face to the world anymore. And
WordPress today has so many beautiful themes.
So many.
I mean, the templates and themes for WordPress are just, I mean, thousands and thousands of beautiful themes. So I would say to definitely, you know, look at some of those if you're getting ready to start a website. So obviously plugins, look at plugins that you can put in. And then writing great content. I mean, we're always looking at, make sure you've got content that's addressing the questions people are Googling.
100%. That I think is the biggest issue right now when it comes to content, is everyone's writing content what they think Google's going to like, right? So they're writing content that's not for people.
Right.
So you're getting this like disjointed, like weird verbiage, things that don't make sense.
Yeah. Keyword.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of writing just great content. And I always tell people, start with your top FAQs. What are the FAQs that you get? And this is where it does take some work, because I think companies need to sit down with their team and say, what are people really typing in Google? Or what are people really asking Siri? Not what do we think, what are the words we think they use, but what are people really using? And you'd have to, I mean, would you say use like keyword tools to do this type of research?
Yeah, I would. And what I would look at are things like Google Trends and things like that to see what kind of keywords are generating traffic. And then what kind of traffic it is. I mean, the one thing that I've been seeing a lot lately is people are trying to show up for like very specific keywords. And then when they finally show up for those keywords, they're not getting the traffic they want. So, you know, we have to really kind of know what your audience is and who your actual consumer is or who you're trying to hit. And then really kind of base our keywords around that more than anything else.
Because they might not be using the same keywords you think they're using.
100%. Or maybe it's noise. For example, like we had a client, you know, a few years ago that wanted to show up for, you know, gold buyers on a national level. So we were showing up and we were positioned like 2, I believe, for gold buyers across the country. And we ended up finding out, I mean, it was great traffic, but it wasn't the ideal user. So the client actually wanted us to change that so we weren't showing up on a national level and becoming more specific. So it's more longer tail. So it's geo-specific that way.
So so you've got great content that's answering the questions. You've got plugins. Now when I start looking for tactical things. Like when I log in to load a blog post, for example, one thing that makes me crazy when I'm reading a blog, I'm really into the content. It's interesting content. And it'll have a link in that blog that'll say, check out this article over at HubSpot. And I click on it and it takes me away from the blog post I was just reading. Yeah. And now I'm on HubSpot's site. And then I'm going to have to hit the back key to get back to, I'm like.
Or you won't. Won't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Most people won't. Okay. Yeah. It's not just me, but I always say there's a little box when you do a hyperlink that says "open in a new window."
That's right.
Is that okay?
Or new tab.
Or open in a new tab. Okay. I'm thinking why would you not want that there? Like you should always open in a new tab or a new window. Why would you not?
100%.
Okay.
I that is one of those things. The fact that's even an option, I think it's just one of those like, let's see how smart these guys are. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I go, is there ever a time you shouldn't open a new window? Because you should always take people to another window so that they'll come back to your site, and you're keeping them on your site technically because there's still open tab there. So your time on your site's a little bit longer than 30 seconds.
Sure.
Okay, so that's one, and I think that's a really important one. When you're loading a blog and you're adding any hyperlinks in your blog post or your website copy, open in a new tab or open a new window. That's a big one.
Absolutely.
How important is it to have, because everyone says put alt tags on your images. I'd love to discuss this with you because we have a client, she's blind. And we've had the discussion as to, are you supposed to be putting, well, supposed to be might be the wrong term, but should you put what the picture really is, man on bicycle, or should you work in your keyword or title into that alt tag?
There's a balance, in my opinion. You need to be able to appreciate, or you have to, know your audience in that particular one. So I like to go and do a mixture of the two, where you're actually saying what the picture is, but you add a keyword to it as well. So that way it shows up in Google Images as well as like the right thing. That used to be, a few years ago, that's where the common black hat SEO trick was to put a ton of just bogus keywords or a ton of keywords in the alt image tags.
Right. It was interesting because I've always thought of that as an alt tag was an area just for keywords. I never really thought, this is actually for someone who has a visually impaired, they're visually impaired, or if you're
has a purpose.
It's like, there really was a purpose for this. And if your images don't load, and we've all gone to sites where it's just a little red box with an X, that your words, your alt tag is going to show up instead of your image. So there are technical things that are meant for that. But having images, how important is that area to SEO? Is it really a big deal?
It is. It's one of those things that's going to add weight to the content that you have on your actual site itself.
Okay.
So it comes down to the organization side of things. That's the biggest thing. And that I mentioned earlier, and it's kind of a rough statement when I say that people are lazy when it comes to doing things on their site, but it really is true.
It was hard.
Well, a lot of these different, it is, it's so brutal. But a lot of these different sites, they give you alerts, right? They tell you different things. Like the Yoast plugin, for example, it's going to tell you different things that you're running into as far as gaps are concerned. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea behind that is to just organize your content so that it's actually going and being read by Google properly. So if you're being lazy with things like your alt image tags,
right.
Is it the end of the world? The reality is no, it's not the end of the world. But is it going to go and maybe prevent you from getting to that next level? Very well could.
Interesting. So putting alt tags, adding that. What I love about the plugins that you can put on, again, this might be a little more technical for some people, but you can add plugins. I'm trying to think of a way to describe it to somebody who's not technical. A plugin is kind of like a little app.
That's actually the best way to describe it. Okay. You just, with WordPress, it's really intuitive. it really is. And they have these things where it usually has the offerings of different plugins. Like add this, and it's a click of a button.
Right. And I always say it's as technical as adding an app to your phone. You may use it, you may not. So, doing a search for some plugins and type in SEO plugins, and Yoast is just one of the top ones. And if you look at just like if you're downloading an app, look at how many other people have downloaded that app, if there's thousands or if there's 10, so, and then read reviews on them. But Yoast is one that's very popular. And I like the fact that it rates your blog posts. So it'll say it's a green light, a yellow light, or red light. So it's looking at, do you even have your keywords in your titles and in your body of your blog? And so Yoast, again, is good. Although recently I added one, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's one that allows Facebook. So it's for Facebook and Twitter. It's a social plugin to allow your content. You know how when you post content on your social media site, it opens up a little preview? It's something that's supposed to be more complementary with Facebook, and it's something like a Facebook. But as soon as you load that plugin, it says this is like oil and water with Yoast. And
there's a lot of them. There's compatible. I mean, it's all software, right? I mean, that's the one big thing is all these things. They're short coded, right? So they're made to make life easier, but not all of them are going to be compatible.
And I've heard you just say, and what's not. So I hear the warning, I see the warning, and I just click ignore. So I'm like,
and see what happens. Throw caution to the wind.
When your GPS tells you to turn left, and you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
So that's always a good one. But knowing things like that is helpful. What are some other tips? What else would you tell people they should be looking at on their auditing their own site or blog posts?
Sure. Just, I mean, when you do searches and your site's showing up, seeing if everything's being properly represented in the actual search result. So like things like your title tags that are showing up or your meta descriptions, all those things, making sure that's the right verbiage that you actually want to use to represent your actual website.
Okay, let's talk, because those are scary tech words sometimes.
They are. But it's pretty easy.
And snippets. What's the difference between a snippet and a meta description?
So the meta description itself is going to be something you hard code into the back end, right? So with a plugin like the Yoast plugin, they actually have a line right there that says, hey, here's your actual meta description. This snippet is fairly new, right? It's only the last 6 years or so, which in our world, I guess, is pretty old, is basically just specific lines of code that you are like rich schema data that you're actually coding out to Google itself.
Okay, so technically what that means is when I do a Google search and I do a search for, I don't know, best restaurant or I'm not going to look for restaurant. Like I said, I'm typing for company that repairs luggage. Those results, my search results come up. It's going to have the name of either the site, title tag,
meta description, and usually you'll have some snippet data on there as well, or instead of the meta description itself.
That's what I was curious, is what's going to show up. The meta description is the little piece of text that you put in there, and that's going to come up. Sometimes it's filled in for you, but usually you want to put that in there to have a keyword and to be descriptive enough so that when the consumer, see that, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to go there.
Yep. Well, you see a lot with review sites, for example. That's the easiest way to describe snippet data, is because when you start seeing that star association in the search results where it says 4 stars, 5 stars, that's really that snippet data, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Okay.
Because you're actually there's that code in there that's there, or movie times, they automatically show up. So it's just another way of formatting the data. And again, there's plugins for that as well.
Right. So it's pulling a little snippet to give the Google searcher a little preview. These are really important things on every page of your website. There's these little areas for this that aren't necessarily filled in for you. You might have to go to every page of your site, every blog post, and do a little audit to see where can I fill in these gaps to make sure that these are in there, because they do make a big difference.
Huge. And it comes down to, and I say this all the time, and it's really redundant, but it just comes down to organization, making sure you have organized text and content throughout your entire site.
So I see, even when you say that, what do you mean by that? Organize. So having certain little check boxes ticked off, or
so title tag, we talked about it just a moment ago, right? So you have your title tag, and that's basically going to be the big line of text at the very top with your search results that has, keywords in there or your business name that you click on. It's what you actually click on in the search results. So that's your title tag. So with these different plugins, it's going to tell you what your title tag should be.
Right.
And so, what we want to do is just make sure that title tag itself is organized so that it actually says what that page is supposed to be about.
Okay.
So that's where we start. Okay. We set up the title tag, we put the appropriate keywords and what that title is about.
Okay.
Then we have our meta description, right? Which these plugins and really every site that's out there now, like all the websites, everyone that I've seen for the most part has like an SEO toolbar that just says meta description that automatically is going to fill this out. So your meta description is really where you could do a couple of things. You could do your call to action on there. You could do your just like the snippet of what that page is supposed to be about as well. So you have your title. Here's the chapter head.
Right.
Here's a synopsis of the chapter, and then we get into the meat and potatoes of the site itself.
Okay. So again, those are basic things that have to be on your website, your web pages, your blog posts. Are there other things that you would say would be important, and again, alt tags? Make sure those are in there. How important is it when we talk categories and tags? Is there a number that are ideal? Like when you're loading a blog post, I see some people have it in like 12 categories, or some people have the same category for. My favorite is when someone has it in a category called uncategorized.
Absolutely. Have it make sense. I know that sounds so silly to say, but just things that make sense. If you're trying to do things that scam the system at all, or it looks spammy, I mean, that's really where you have to kind of trust your judgment a little bit. And I think that's one of the things where SEO is SEO, right? The difference you're going to run into, like different SEO guys, is maybe methodology a little bit and just their take on different things. And the reality is, if you're trying to scam the system, and the system is pretty dry, SEO is pretty much defined in the webmaster tools, right, of what you can and cannot do. So if you're trying to go and break the rules, or you're doing something that doesn't look you're going to get in trouble. It will, absolutely.
Which is interesting because we've had clients say, well, I have somebody that's getting me in a lot of directories and a lot of link directories. This is an area that's very controversial. Link directories, and I hope we can keep you. I think your internet signal is like going a little wonky, but I'd love to hear yours, because you're coming from the SEO side and I'm coming from the marketing side. The whole thing of link directories, because my thought is, yes, get on directories, like find legitimate people who are creating a list of the top software companies in America, or find the top shoe repair stores in Littleton and find out who's writing those posts and see if you can somehow get on those lists. Find out how do you get
I 100% agree.
Those
100% agree.
What are, like, what's your thought, or what can you tell us about link directories and links?
Well, and you nail on the head. It's one of the most controversial topics out there, and you're going to get everybody who is going to have a very strong opinion about it. Usually the people that are opposed to link building were people that were trying to bend the rules in the first place. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
So everything when it comes to link building has to make sense. Again, I know I keep saying that, but it has to be logical. So if you're a plumber, well, it would make sense if all of your links deal with service industries type like directories or things like that. If you're linked to a car dealership in Omaha, Nebraska, and you have a ton of those, that doesn't make sense. And you're going to eventually get hit.
A site in China that has Viagra ads all over it. That's what I've seen. And I'm like, okay.
Well, I never knew there was that much Viagra out there. There's a lot of
those ads are everywhere. And I'm like, okay, why would you want your company's site link to be on a site like that? That should tell you that is not correct. And so, okay, as a business owner, if I know nothing about this, and somebody tells me they've got me on a lot of link or directories, I've got your, I've got your site listed on these directories. How can you check?
Well, there's a few different ways, actually. You could check out, there's backlink finders that you could use, and you could just Google that. There's tons of them out there that'll show you what you're actually linked to. Google Webmaster Tools has an audit check that you could do as well. So there's a lot of ways you could check to see what you're actually linked to.
Denver Pete. Shout out to Denver Pete, who's saying check spyfoo.com. And
yep, that's SpyFoo's awesome. SpyFoo is great.
So again, even if you're non-techie, would you be able to go there and know what to do there?
Sure. Oh, it's very intuitive. And what's great about SpyFoo is you can also check out your competition. So you could sit there and Google like your arch nemesis and see what they're doing on SpyFoo. You could put that on there.
And we all have those.
That's right.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. It's like, using tools to just check. And I think part of it too is, I didn't know this for years, but Google has, they have a whole, I think it's called like something SEO University or something. They have this series of videos that are for a small business owner or someone who's just saying, I need to learn more about this. I always say everyone should know enough about SEO and search engine, for marketing and keywords. You should know enough that when you do hire someone to help your business, you know the right questions to ask and you know how to see whether they're doing what they're saying you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you get an email, which we all get lots of emails promising page 1 rankings, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
And I get
that's just the
time saying, oh, we've just looked at your website just coincidentally. Here's all these things that we could improve on your site to get you to page 1.
What's funny is we actually know that an SEO campaign is starting to be successful based on the amount of spam we start getting.
Oh,
because we know that once we hit page 1, we're going to get about 30% increase on those particular emails, at least.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I guess they're just trying to save business. So directories is one thing. Keyword stuffing, again, you see this all the time. People write content and it sounds like they're writing for Google instead of a human. Write for humans and then go back and reread it with an SEO filter on just to say, do I even have my keywords in the first part of my text? And have I mentioned the things that are important? I mean, are there things that people should do? Am I too naive in thinking it's that simple?
Yeah, and here's the big thing, Gene, is like there's a lot of people, they'll find a competitor they don't like. And there's always that one competitor that's position 1 and beating them on everything that's out there.
Right.
And that could be for a variety of reasons. A lot of time, it's because the person signed in, they've clicked on their competitor so much that Google's just trying to help them by showing them over and over again. But there's those that sometimes are ranking really well. And there's some that I run into where they are spamming the system. The person that is beating out that person that is like incensed that we have to beat these people right now. Well, you don't want to write to try to compete with one person.
Right.
That's the biggest mistake people write. They're like, I have to beat one business. That's not true. That person might be beating you for a couple of search terms.
Right.
And if they're cheating, it might not be tomorrow. It might not be for a year, but they're eventually gonna get found out by Google and disappear.
Right.
The short-term solution.
So write for your potential customers. Write for
exactly.
Customers.
Make it natural. We get people all the time that say, okay, I want you to write blogs for us. And we're like, oh well, I prefer to, you don't want me to write it. But, we have writers on staff and stuff. But like when we write blogs, we always want to go and try to get the voice of the person themselves, right? So that it makes sense. We're not trying to write as like this SEO robot. That is the biggest mistake a lot of these guys make is they're trying to write, again, specifically for Google. And you just can't do that.
Yeah. Write for humans. And again, I think if you start with what are the frequently asked questions, and answer those questions in content, in blog posts, in videos. What's your thought on video and how that plays a role with SEO?
I love it. And I think it's going to be one of the biggest players in the next couple of years. I think we're only at the cusp of what video is going to be.
On your website or linking or embedding on your website?
I would do a combination of everything. We've been doing some beta tests with different things and we get different results based on what we're doing. But again, if it's content that's actually on your site and you maybe, Google owns YouTube.
Right.
So embedding a YouTube video might not be a bad idea from time to time.
Technically, Alphabet owns both of them.
Well, that's true. Touche.
Like now, I still can't get used to that. Yeah, that's interesting. Video being such a big thing. And here's a tip for people, which I always thought, okay, I speak clearly. I don't have an accent. So, when you do a video, Google automatically transcribes it for you for the closed caption. So a lot of times I thought it's not a big deal to go transcribe my own videos. until someone pointed out a couple videos that I had that had obscene words that Google had translated what I was saying into really random statements. So I tell everyone, when you do a video, use a service. We use a Fiverr, and we found someone that, and now we work with her directly because it's been so many years, but we have every video. We send her the links to all our videos. She transcribes them, and then we upload them in the closed caption area until we want Google to use that transcription, not the one that Google thinks was correct. And I don't know if that's a super ninja SEO trick, or if it's just to avoid embarrassment.
I love it. It goes down to, just, well, you've seen the Google Translate, which is a bit hit or miss with certain things too.
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, literally when somebody pointed out, they took a screenshot, they're like, this is what Google said you said. I was like, oh my gosh.
I didn't realize I had the mouth of a sailor.
I didn't know that I was swearing on. Yeah. So I quickly uploaded the transcription for that video and got that taken care of. So are there any other things as somebody going and just auditing the back end of my own website? Let me throw out a scenario to you. We have a client, and I don't want to say her name, but trying to rank. She had a business and sold it, and now she has a new business, and she's now basically competing with her old self. What are the things? I mean, we keep saying we need more content, lots of pages. Sometimes people have websites that just have a couple pages. If you're trying to quickly get your site to rank, what are things that you can do?
Well, if you're doing the content and everything else, unfortunately, you need some time. You have to let it marinate a bit. That's the biggest thing. You can't rush certain things. See, but it depends on the keywords too, right?
And good question. Is it Confluent Form says to rank for what? Yeah, she's trying to get it to rank for her own name. Unfortunately,
and that should be pretty easy. If it's a name that's a very niche, that should be pretty easy. But if it's a very keyword heavy name, you could run into some issues from time to time.
Yeah. Well, and her name is associated with a lot of stuff, and she sold a business that was her name.
Sure.
So it's like,
sure.
Oh yeah, you gotta now really pump out a lot of, and even things like when you put your videos and your blog posts, your name becomes a keyword. So she wasn't necessarily thinking of her name needing to be in there. She had her topic as keywords, but not her name. So I said, in that case, you do need your name as a keyword because you're competing against an old business that had your name. Weird.
That's a tough world, isn't it? Competing with yourself. That's rough.
Yeah, it's like chasing your ghost. But as we wrap up, I'd love if anybody in the chat room here has any tips and things. Again, for people, there's lots of go down because we really want our site to be optimized. Like you said, Matt, invest and have somebody that knows what they're doing, which is not always a web designer. Because I always say there's a web designer, there's a copywriter, and there's SEO. People who know.
And you have your SEO person. Yeah, you don't want me to design a website. I know the items that I'm good at, and I will never pretend to be a designer because if you want me to, it will look terrible. And really, yeah, you really do. I mean, it's just, and the problem is anybody who tries to be the master of everything, that's when we run into problems. I understand SEO. Pay-per-click, it's not my specialty. We have people on the team, that's all they do is pay-per-click.
Right. So see, that's interesting because that's even another element that you can go down that path. And I think, so just because somebody who designed your website said, oh yeah, I did all the SEO work for it as well. Go in and audit. Just look at some of these areas. And those are usually areas that you see that they didn't do. They didn't put alt tags. They didn't put good meta descriptions in there, if any. So to me, it's go in and look at those things. And Denver, Pete, I am in Colorado right now. I'm going back and forth between Chicago. We have an office in Chicago, one in Denver, and one in San Antonio. And but I'm working hard to get back to Colorado. I need to leave Chicago's winters. But I'd love to, hear if there's any last minute things you think. Otherwise, we need to definitely contact Matt over at Pop Clickle. So say, okay, we need you just to get my site ranking here, dude.
I like that. That's the fun stuff.
That's interesting. That's the thing. And again, if you're doing it yourself, focus on really great content. I think right now you have to not pump out tons of content. That's not necessarily the key. It's pump out regular great content, and that's hard.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that once you do the content side of it, just there's local directories that you just want to make sure you sign up for.
What do you mean? Give me some tips on that, because what do you mean local directories?
So, there's the standard, like Yelp. You want to make sure you set up your Yelp campaign. All these different listings are out there. The moment you set up a business,
right,
a lot of these different directories are going to go out there and they're going to crawl and it's going to be indexed, right? So there's different sites that are out there, exactly, like moz.com/local. You could go there and it's going to claim a lot of your business.
Can you do that if you're not a local? Like if your business is national, can you still? Is that still?
I would still make sure you had your local directory site set up.
Okay.
Because if your business is set up like in Colorado, for example, make sure all that's set up, but you could just mention in your actual business description that you're a national business.
Okay. So still go in there and set all those up. Get your Google. Now Google.
Did I lose you?
Oh, I'm still here, but it looks like you froze. Oh, I think you froze. Yeah, maybe he'll pop back in. Google Plus has changed, and now it's Google My Local Business or Google My Business. And so I think they're shifting over to that. And I think businesses need to get in there and fill out those profiles and get every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. Oh, thank you. Look at you. Confluent Forms. Thank you. You rock. Google.com/business. Yeah, you need to fill out all these profiles as much as possible to make sure your site has these profiles set up so that it helps sending the links back and forth. But let's see. Oh, I may have removed Matt. Matt, I was trying to add you back in here. There we go. Let's see if your internet will let you. So you can come in and at least we can wrap up. But if anyone else has tips, let's see. Confluent Forms. Moz Local is great for making sure your directory information is set across the web. Oh, you know what? I found that out. So because we have an office in Colorado, one in Chicago, the address was different in some of them. And I think that can hurt you. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you want those to make sure that they're all consistent, that you've got the right phone number in there, that you've got the right address for your business in there. And so, yeah, let's see. Look, see, you should just pop in here, Confluent Forms. Let's see, what does it say? You need to set up your local satellite offices. David, come on down, David. We're talking SEO. Hey.
I figured it's faster than typing.
Well, I'm trying to read them. I'm like, wait, what is this? Whoa, there it goes.
Yep. So even with Moz Local, it's great for doing directories. Like, so you can it's a yearly subscription, but you can set your information to go out across the web to all the different directory listings. But you can also, if you're one business that has a main location and then lots of satellite locations, you can also set your satellite locations in there as well. It's a greater cost, I believe. And the same thing goes with Google My Business, where let's say you're Gap, and there's Gaps in towns across America, you can have a mass directory now of all your different Gap stores and maintain them in one place, including store hours, locations, everything.
So you have the main store, and then all the others are satellite listings.
Exactly, and that has SEO benefits, not just Google, local search benefits, but main search engine optimization benefits, because you have the NAP information correctly set everywhere.
Interesting.
So it's a good thing to do.
Again, it seems overwhelming or intimidating, but I think it's just like, one, and maybe it's just something every week. You pick one thing and you say, okay, I'm going to focus on this week for my business. I look at trying to rewrite the copy on one web page every week of just going in and auditing it to say, is there a way to make it more relevant? Do I need to update this? But
I was kind of responding to what you were saying earlier with, you were talking about putting out lots of content. And actually, in many respects, I actually believe it's the opposite. It's that you need to get known for specific content, not necessarily putting out lots of content.
Yeah, not just random lots. And that's why I'm saying it's not necessarily the quantity, It has to be the quality that other people are actually recommending your site.
It doesn't even need to be quality. It just needs to be that people associate you with that content.
Oh, interesting.
And it's the association that's almost more important sometimes than the quality of the content. It's just that you are known for that.
Right.
You know, like, for example, people know me for specific topics.
Right.
You know, and you can think of Google's search engine as the same thing. What is David Kutcher or what is Confluent Forums known for?
Right.
You know, and they create topical relevancy, which is how you get shown up for searches, including the example that you were giving about the person and their name and getting known for their name. You know, for so long, Google was saying, well, this person's name is associated with this business over here. How do we change that association so it's not just that person's name to that business, but now this person's new business in this other place?
Now, wouldn't this be where social media really plays a role? Because you can put out more content across these social media platforms to get branded and known in a certain niche?
So Stone Temple Consulting put out a great resource, and Moz put out actually a whiteboard a few weeks back showing how little social media sharing and social media links
that it really
affect because nobody clicks through the links from social media, and then nobody shares those links or shares them in a non-social media perspective by actually putting them into evergreen content.
Right.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, now we did an experiment where we were posting regular content, but, you know, maybe like 10, 15 tweets a day, mixing in some content that took people back to our website, blogs, and some were retweets of other people's content. And then we thought, okay, that's not working. So we increased the frequency of tweets that went directly back to our blog posts. So we took an inventory, basically, of all of our assets. Videos, blog posts, everything. And we increased the frequency of those. And then we used our Google Analytics to measure web traffic. And it was amazing. I think we lost David too. Maybe I'm killing people off. I'm not sure what's happening. There you are. But it was amazing, the spike in traffic. It went way up. Like, I'm trying to remember the numbers, but is that saying that people were clicking through? I mean, they did click through.
Well, you're mixing a few different things in there. I mean, there's the frequency thing, which is, yes, if let's say you have 100,000 followers on Twitter, right, and you post content at any given moment, maybe only 500 of those people will actually be checking their stream and seeing it. Right. So you need to keep on repeating it because nobody is following their stream all day, every day, and seeing it.
Yeah, most people don't post too often because they think, oh, I'm overwhelming people. But it's like, they're not sitting there just reading your tweet.
They're not seeing it. I mean, I think maybe, at that point, 5% of your followers will actually see it at a given moment.
Right.
And the Moz one that I was talking about, he posted on October 2nd. It's using social media as your primary or only link building tactic probably won't work.
Interesting. So
and it speaks about that, specifically about that issue, which is, those links aren't going anywhere. They're not being indexed by Google. Google has already treated all those things as spam anyway, so it doesn't think about it. It doesn't factor it into the equation. So
it should be part of your mix, but don't rely on that as your only way of getting people to your site.
I think there's a change. You have to change the way you think about it, which is use social media as a way to build your brand ambassadors and speak to your brand ambassadors and say, hey, how can we work this content into your stuff? How can we make this more relevant to you so that they want to bring it back into there? So it's not necessarily about social media doing the job. It's about you connecting with your brand ambassadors in the best way possible, because they're the ones that are going to turn around and include the links to your stuff and do the link building that you need to do, then the association stuff that you need to do.
Right. And again, then it takes planning, because you want to write content that is so good and shareable that people would say, oh, I'm going to put this as a resource on my website for people to go back there to that site to read.
Right, which then comes back to, you doing what you should be doing in the first place, which is coming, and defining your audiences and speaking to your audiences. And one of those is really your brand ambassadors. And how do I connect with my brand ambassadors? Who are they? What are they? What is the criteria that they're looking for? Why are they going to share my content?
Right.
And then understanding how you can write content that they then will want to share.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of work involved, and that's, when I even wanted to talk about this topic, I was like, there are so many people that this whole thing just seems so overwhelming and intimidating that they get paralyzed and do nothing.
Right.
And, my hope is that, okay, we can simplify it enough to say, do a little bit and be consistent. Be consistent and keep going. Get up and do a little bit again.
I had a great phone call earlier today with an author who does like marriage counseling.
Right.
And she's been putting out this stuff, and she's been writing and putting out tons of content. And she's like, nobody's, people are coming, but nobody's buying my books, and nobody's doing all this other stuff.
Right.
And I said, you need to, she came to me looking for Google Analytics advice. And I said, take a step back and look at it and go, you know what? Figure out who your audiences are, because none of your content is really speaking to any one of your audiences.
True.
And really understand them. And I said, think about it as each one of your audiences, create in your mind a type of person. Take one of your patients as this visual in your head and break them down to have specific person that when you're writing a blog post, you're actually speaking to that person without actually speaking to that person. And that allows you to create that connection, because they read it and they go, oh, this was written for me, and then that works for search, it works for content sharing, it works for everything. And then when they get to the bottom of that post, you have them in the palm of your hand to do what you want, whether that's buy a book, share your article, whatever, build those links, because they feel you've written that content for them.
And I think, again, writing content is not sharing a promotion. It's writing content that's helpful to the person you're speaking to. And, yesterday I was speaking to a group, and someone said, I'm going to write a post more often and tell people about the conferences we're going to be at, or we're going to be, where we're going to be. I was like, to me, that's not interesting and helpful content to me, your reader. I want you to share something that is, helpful and really interesting to me. And shout out Jed and me. Who's in the house? We got people coming in the house here at the end.
Oh, the 03 one must have just ended.
Is that what it is?
Hi, Casey. She can get in here. This is her topic as well.
Is it? Oh, see, yeah, this is not my area of expertise. I mean, we deal in the social marketing, but we're always looking at how can we really incorporate more of this into.
Well, it touches on social media marketing. It's knowing your audience speaks to both search engines and social media.
Right.
If you know your audiences, you can get into those micro moments. You can get into, being able to connect with your audience. You can get that higher click-through rate from the SERP, because you know that the person who has run this query is this type of person, because they also have these 6 other things that they're, inquiring about. You can get them into your funnel better. And if you get them into your funnel better and you keep their click, they're not going to bounce back to the SERP, which is going to, potentially reduce your rankings. So it makes for stickier content. It makes for better search engine ranking content. It makes for a better user experience. It makes for better conversion rates. It all comes from knowing your audiences and really speaking to your audiences.
Speaking to your audience. It goes back to that whole thing of, are you writing content that's interesting and helpful? I mean, my saying all the time is be interesting, be helpful, or be quiet. And
so, well, Jed says, so sticky is a good thing. Well, sticky can be a good thing.
It can.
Sticky can be a good thing I recently wrote an article, 2,000 words about the bounce rate and how it's completely misunderstood. You could be a person, everyone says, oh, if I have a high bounce rate, that's a bad thing. But at the same time, every night I read probably one article on the New Yorker, their website, before I fall asleep. But I come back every day and I read that article, like a new article.
Right.
I'm an incredibly dedicated reader, but I am bouncing every night that I read that one article.
As you read one thing and leave.
No, it's not even one thing. I'm like, I just needed something to shut down my brain so I can go to sleep. So I read one article and I fall asleep. But I'm bouncing literally every night. But I'm a dedicated reader of the New Yorker.
So for those who don't understand bounce rate, what causes something to be counted as a bounce? You're only reading one piece of content, one page before you leave. You don't go to other pages or time.
Okay, so it's one event. So one event is, and no more than one event is a bounce. So when you go and use Google Analytics, it sends a first event, which is, page view. And then if there's no other events that are recorded for that session, and that session length lasts by default 30 minutes, if it only lasts that one event, then it's a bounce.
A bounce. So even if someone read your blog post and then closed your site, that's a bounce.
Correct. That's a bounce.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But you could, I give plenty of examples in this article, but if you're a restaurant and someone goes to your restaurant website and they find what they needed, which is your phone number, and they call your phone number, that's also a bounce. But they converted. They did what they needed to do, which was get your phone number.
Right.
Or, I have people that go to my blog and my company's blog, and they will read one article every 2 weeks, because maybe that's how often we put out a new blog article, is once every 2 or 3 weeks. But they come back and they read a new blog article every time, but only one at a time. So they're a bounce, but they're dedicated readers.
Yeah.
So sticky is different. Sticky, you don't necessarily need to have a multi-page session for it to be a good thing. You just need to build a dedicated reader who becomes a brand ambassador, who's going to engage with your content, engage with your business.
True. Well, and that goes to the thing too, as you're writing your blog posts, if you can link back to another post or recommend another post or share something that gets people to go. So, but I guess
that might not be their goals for the time.
Yeah, it may not even be their goals. It increases your odds of them staying on your site a little longer. But then you go, is that really your goal, just to get them on your site longer? Your goal is to convert. So like you said, they may read one post and call you. So what are you crying about?
Yeah, or it might take them coming and reading 5 blog articles over the course of 12 months. But at the end of the year, they call and hire my company.
Right.
It just might have taken much longer to go through that process with that person, but they became part of my funnel.
Yeah, Neen's asking, that's a great question, is what numbers do we pay attention to?
Every story, you have to create your funnel stories.
Right.
And understand them. And I tell them there's no specific number ever in Google Analytics to pay attention to. They are all equally meaningless.
Well, they're all equally well, to me, I look at it, when I'm looking at my Google Analytics reports, I'm looking at it to say, how will this help me make a decision for next month to do something different? Whether it's, do I write something different because this one really did well and this one did not do well? Do I change something on a page or?
But that's the thing, is that every number is equally meaningless until you choose to use it to advance your goals.
True. To do something different. Yeah.
But then you could literally take and say, this month that number is meaningless to me, and it would be meaningless because you choose not to use it, or use it to your advantage. Or there might be this great number that I think I use for everything, that you basically are like, what? That number is completely meaningless to me. Has no bearing on anything I do.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Different for everyone.
It is different for everyone. And you look at it and say, it's all about getting someone to end up hiring you or buying from you. So look at that and say, what will cause people to do that or trust you and recommend you? So again, there's a different goal as well. It's like that whole thing.
Every number is equally meaningful and meaningless. Yeah. It really depends on how you're trying to craft that story in the data. And, I look at it as every number there, it could be a Rorschach test for all it matters. You put value onto here. You read into that number what you want it to do. But the number is really, in my opinion, to help you ask more questions to get to better answers. Sure. The number in and of itself doesn't say anything. What's a 16% conversion rate versus a 40% conversion rate? Nothing, because you need to know, well, how much traffic is that conversion rate based off of? That's
true. Because is it based on 10 visitors, 1,000 visitors, 100,000 visitors?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it could be, in one case it was only 1,000, the other case it was 100,000.
Or 1%. You'd rather have the 1%, versus.
And that's the thing, is that it really, it's your situation. Every situation you have to look at independently, but it's really to ask you more questions. And then it becomes, how do I increase that conversion rate? Or that week it might be, how do I get more people and keep the same conversion rate?
Interesting. Yeah. So it's looking at your data with the knowledge of what am I trying to achieve and what am I really looking at to do that. Do you have any tools that you recommend? You know, obviously Google Analytics, but do you use anything else?
Google Analytics and Webmaster Tools. I try to keep it really plain, especially with my clients, that I don't want to overwhelm them with tools. It's really, most of the tools are offline. You know, it's in your head. It's writing down your audiences and your audience worksheets. And, you know, I look at it as that's where the real work is not in a tool, but is in actually like physical paper journals.
What is the big word?
God help me.
Paper. What is this paper stuff? I love that Phyllis said, yeah, Google Analytics, you get lost in there, but it's a good kind of lost. It is interesting because you just start going analyzing.
I go on videos and talk about rabbit holes. Google Analytics is rabbit holes. You have to go in there with a mission and a question, specifically a question. You know, if you go in there to look at numbers, all the numbers, like I said, are completely meaningless. Right. No number in there has meaning until you decide to use it for a purpose.
That's right.
So instead, forget Google Analytics. Try to figure out what are my goals and what is my story and what am I trying to learn about?
Yeah.
And how do I get there?
Well, it's funny because some people say my goal is to drive more traffic to my website. And then I go look at their website and I'm like, oh, you don't want to drive traffic to your site. There's nothing there for them to do. Like, how are you capturing leads? And how do you know if, like, so sometimes what we think is the right goal, we need to step back and first start with, okay, who am I trying to reach? How do I know if I've reached them? How am I following up with them? Do I even have, you know, there's a lot.
I mean, I tell people the first thing you want to do after you set up analytics and making sure that it's actually set up correctly, try to set up goals specifically. Try to set up goals in your analytics. You know, whether it's getting people to contact you, whether it's getting people to sign up to your newsletter, whether it's to get people to buy. Set that up. That's the first step, is to set it up in analytics.
In Google, yeah. In Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Set those
in
goals.
Google Analytics.
Right.
And then wait a month. Give it one good month of data and then start asking questions. And then you can hire my company and we'll help you figure that out too. But, you know, it starts from there of getting good data. But like I said, going back to it, a lot of that stuff that's of value is done offline in figuring out, like I said, your audience stories. You know, who are your different audience types? Who are these personas? Who are these archetypes of your users that you want your content to be about and speaking to?
Yeah, and really writing for them. Phyllis asked, this is a great question. What are the best reporting systems for your funnel stories? Aren't you looking at your Google Analytics in each page?
Yeah, Google Analytics, you can go back and you can look at your funnels. I think that's what that person's talking about.
Is that what you mean, Phyllis? I think so, because, yeah, you're looking at, so if I was driving them to a specific landing page or an automated report, is there something out there that you can say, I want this to come to me every month or every week, or there's nothing, huh? You always have to go in and go dig for the data.
You can do automated reports in Google. It'll give you automated reports. Oh. But regardless, I mean, even then, I would tell you to set up a custom dashboard.
Okay.
And just go in and look at your custom dashboard.
Yeah.
Because that would allow you to do the same thing and just pull out what reports you want to be on that page, and it shows you 12 nice graphs in one thing as opposed to hunting and pecking.
Right, right. And there's tools like Quill Engage. Have you ever used that?
See, I'm not a tools person.
Yeah. It is interesting. See,
I know lots of people that have, you know, they look at it and go, well, I have this for this and this for this and this for this. I don't understand how people manage that stuff. I really don't.
Tools. And Deb just said, I love Quill Engage. Deb, I think you're the one that told me about Quill Engage. And what I love about Quill Engage, it's just one, it basically is pulling your Google Analytics, but it writes it in terms that a very non-technical person understands. It's basically like somebody sitting across from you saying, your page that got the most clicks was this, and let's look at why that might happen. And it writes it in words like that, like a storyteller. So for
what was that? I used to use that for not that one, but a different one for my client. And it would pull out and make a nice little infographic.
Nice little
it was a nice little useless infographic.
Yeah, but it makes you feel good. And it tells you this is where you need to work, and this is what really worked for you last month. But I think we do need to get over being intimidated by Google Analytics, and I think we all need to log in and just start getting familiar
Well, that's what custom dashboards are great for. You know, I mean, I use them. I create custom dashboards for my clients, and I can share them up to their account, so when they log into analytics, they don't have to go hunting and pecking for reports. They go right to the custom dashboards that I've created. Right. And each one, some of my clients have 10 different ones that I've made for them that are 10 different aspects of their business that they need to look at from an analytics perspective. Right. You know, one might be their social media dashboard. Another might be their inbound visitors dashboard. Another is their goal conversions dashboard. So they have all these different custom dashboards, and that's all they look at is those dashboards. And then they can look at them over time. They can do all kinds of things. But that's so much easier than you know, using these third-party tools that dumb it down to a point that it just becomes, and you got 10 page views today. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. It tells you nothing about anything. Right.
That goes back to, what are you really measuring? And just because you got 10 page views may not be a good thing, but it may be a super great thing, and it's only 10, depending on what you're going for.
Made you feel really good inside, gave you warm fuzzies. I got 10 page views today.
It's like 10 likes. I got 10 likes on my...
Somebody shared my content.
Somebody shared it. They like me. Yeah. And I think we do
Phyllis,
caught up in that.
Phyllis asks, do I train people on how to make custom dashboards? Reach, Connect, Uplift is a women's group, women's business group, and she did a 15-minute YouTube video with me for exactly how to set up custom dashboards.
Okay, what is Reach?
RCU Women, I believe. Custom dashboards. I'm Googling because I can't remember the URL.
Yeah.
Where are they? But yes, I did set that up for someone. And I will get you a video for that.
You're awesome.
But yeah, it's easy. It's fun. I highly recommend doing custom dashboards.
Yeah. Well, this is like, this has gone geeky beyond my expectations. So I think.
I'm sorry. Awesome. I will leave the room now.
I just want people to know it might sound intimidating, but look at it as
that's not what I want. Sorry.
Put rcuwomen.com.
Yes, I'm trying to find the videos right now because I'm in a whole bunch of them. Here, it's one of these videos.
And while you're looking for that, for those of you who weren't here in the very beginning, yeah, the new changes on Blab are pretty fun. I love the tell your aunt on Facebook that you're on.
Yeah, because that's exactly what Facebook is. It's how do you tell your aunt what you do? Yes, right there.
It is so dangerous for me to click that button because mine should say tell your mom, and she's going to come in here and say something. I guarantee.
I totally get that. I unfortunately need to go, but thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you so much. How can we get a hold of you? Obviously, there's your Twitter handle here. Confluent Forms.
Yep, Confluent Forms.
That's so on Twitter.
ConfluentForms.com.
ConfluentForms.com. You're a rock star. And thanks to Matt, who I think we lost him due to poor internet connection. I know he was traveling. So thank you to Matt. Thank you to David. This is awesome. And thank you for everyone that joined us. It was great. We're all geekier because of you. Thanks, everyone. Bye, Phyllis. Bye, Neen. I'll be Miss Mary Ann.